The UK's net zero minister gushed over Prime Minister Mark Carney at COP30 in Brazil, lauding him as a, quote, climate leader.
A BC university is advertising hiring for faculty positions exclusively based on the skin color of applicants.
The left-wing Brazilian government is facing criticism over hosting 3 diesel-guzzling cruise ships while it hosts world elites to talk about climate policies during COP30. Hello Canada, it's Wednesday, November 12th, and this is the True North Daily Brief. I'm Cosmin, Dzsurdzsa.
And I'm Walid, Tamtam.
We've got you covered with all the news you need to know. Let's discuss the top stories of the day and the True North exclusives you won't hear anywhere else. At the United Nations COP30 Climate Summit in Brazil, UK's net zero minister and former Labour leader Ed Miliband offered glowing praise for Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, calling him a, quote, great guy and a good friend. True North journalist Walid Tamtam caught up with Miliband outside a COP30 event in Belém, Brazil. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer had delivered an address at the conference's prelude alongside Prince William last week. When asked about Carney's leadership and climate policy record, Miliband replied, quote, I think Mark Carney's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and I believe he's a really important climate leader. Asked if he and Carney were still in contact and planning to collaborate on climate initiatives, Miliband added, absolutely.
Just a question for Ottawa. What are your thoughts on Mark Carney's climate leadership?
I think Mark Carney's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. And I believe he's a really important climate leader.
Are you still in touch with him? Are you guys looking forward to getting closer in the future?
Absolutely.
Tens of thousands of delegates, including a Canadian contingent led by Environment Minister Julie and Canadian Identity Minister Stephen Guilbeault, are attending the United Nations' latest climate conference in the Amazon. Carney, who served as governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020, has been a central figure in the global climate finance movement. He has used his influence in banking and government to push for aggressive decarbonization targets and ESG-driven investment policies. While Carney chose not to attend COP30 himself, his allies are well represented. So, Walid, you are there right now. You're in Brazil at COP30. What are some of the things you've heard? Has the Canadian delegation arrived yet? What have they said?
Yeah, so this morning, for now, it's a one-minister team. It's Julia Dzsurdzsa who arrived this morning, and I tried speaking with her. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get anything out of her yet. As you will see later on, she's been deflecting questions, and her staff have been doing everything possible to keep her away from me. They saw Canadian journalists going after her for information that Canadian people want to know, like what are the costs that we are incurring, what are the commitments we are making, what is the dollar figure amount that we are committing to these different UN and globalist initiatives on the environment. I heard that Stephen Guilbeault is set to arrive today, actually. So I was told on Monday that he'll be arriving on the midnight, and then he'll be around for Tuesday morning. So we'll see if I can catch up with him before I depart. I watched Dzsurdzsa's brief remarks, about 3 minutes worth of remarks on Remembrance Day, discussing the importance of remembrance and observing a 2-minute moment of silence. And of course, her team was all present there, and that was basically the only event she had at the pavilion that was publicly available. Everything else was her interacting behind closed doors with other delegates from other countries and other bilateral meetings she had all evening long. But that was the first day we had any Canadian minister whatsoever, the first day where Canada was represented by someone else besides the ambassador to Brazil. And of course, I guess that team will only get bigger as the days at COP30 go on. Simon Fraser University fully embraced race-based hiring with an advertisement for faculty position exclusively restricted to Black applicants. A tenure track posting in philosophy says the competition is limited to applicants who, quote, self-identify as Black. Applicants must first complete a applicant demographic survey. Another posting in the School of Criminology applies the same race restriction, warning that candidates who do not complete the survey, quote, will not be considered. The posting states that the demographic survey responses will be used to determine their appropriateness for the position, alongside their experience and qualifications. Simon Fraser University says race-restricted hiring is part of a special program supported by the BC Human Rights Commissioner. The university received approval from the commissioner to limit recruitment. Simon Fraser University plans to hire at least, quote, 15 black tenure track faculty and 15 black staff by 2028 to address what it calls systemic discrimination. The demographic survey asks applicants to report Indigenous identity, racial identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability status. The postings say these questions help the university meet Canada Research Chair's targets to enhance equity and remove systemic barriers to recruitment. Cosmin, how on earth is this legal? Is there something that Canada's constitution that makes racial discrimination permissible in this case?
Well, look, Walid, under Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, discrimination on the basis of race is prohibited. But there are exceptions, believe it or not, and this has been kind of adjudicated in the quasi-court system of human rights tribunals, at least in Ontario. There are appeals to subsections that essentially say that within Canadian law, you're allowed to have special programs designed, or so-called rather, designed to help disadvantaged groups. So basically, if an institution argues that a policy is meant to fix historical inequality, it can get a green light to treat people differently based on things like race, gender, or identity. And that seems to be what Simon Fraser University is doing here, and plenty of other organizations, institutions, both public and not, have used this to sort of segregate people based on identifiable race characteristics. The Brazilian government is under fire as the host of COP30 for using 3 diesel-guzzling cruise ships to house climate conference attendees, sparking outrage over the summit's real carbon footprint. In order to accommodate thousands of foreign delegations and politicians, the Brazilian government docked 3 gas-guzzling ships at the docks of the host city, one reserved for President Lula, while the other 2 were reserved for commercial use. According to a report by Brazilian media outlet Revista Oeste, Lula's own vessel consumes approximately 135 liters of diesel fuel per hour. The boat remains docked in Belém, where the summit is taking place, and are being used as a floating hotel due to a shortage of upscale accommodations in the city. The magazine reports that the cost of renting the boat is being covered by taxpayers under federal government expenses, though officials have not been transparent about the full cost. The vessel features private suites, dining facilities, and conference rooms for meetings during the international climate event. Walid, while you're there, what are some of the other points of contention or controversy that you're hearing about the Brazilian governments, particularly around like climate hypocrisy during the COP30 event?
Well, Cosmin, for climate hypocrisy, there is no shortage whatsoever. First of all, we covered the story earlier on before COP went off officially, which was the story about the thousands of trees cut down from the very same Amazon rainforest that the government of Brazil is poising to protect using our tax dollars from high-income countries. They cut down thousands of those trees of that protected rainforest in order to build a highway, which would essentially be serving delegates and visitors going up into the city of Belém from the rainforest, from the Amazon, and from the bordering states. It's, I think, a 4-lane highway that they were looking to build based off that cleared off space. And of course, that's just the beginning. We also know about these 3 cruise ships that are all diesel powered and are burning hundreds of liters per every couple hours, of course. And these are, of course, high-end facilities being used for these foreign delegates of, very elitist stature. From the business aspect to the political angle, we had Macron from France, Keir Starmer from the UK. I spoke earlier today or earlier the other day, sorry, with Gavin Newsom. And there are many other delegates that are benefiting from those gas guzzling machines on water. We also know about the fake tree story as well. So while the government of Brazil has authorized the cutting down of trees from the Amazon rainforest, they have spent almost 5 million Canadian dollars of Brazilian tax dollars, that is, on building these artificial trees to plant around Belém to kind of show off the whole nature, which is not even natural itself. And that's just the climate side of things. To go beyond and further, for most of day one, most of the venue did not even have properly functioning air conditioning. For most of the last couple of days, even including today, many of the bathrooms are not functional because they're not receiving water to both the sinks and toilets. And of course, there are many other small complaints, like the cafeteria is not having enough food for the guests, the food itself being extremely expensive at the venue. And of course, this venue is right in the middle of the city, so it's not some remote location where you would have to ship everything on trucks. This is very much a plausible situation, but of course, Lula's and his government's decision to host the conference at Belém is almost entirely a political decision of bringing attention to an area where he is usually more popular than, for example, the south of Brazil. So that's the situation on the ground for now. And of course, I will keep our viewers up to date with any further examples of high carbon hypocrisy on the end of the Brazilian government, or frankly, the global delegations that are attending this event for all the wrong reasons.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can stay on top of new episodes every weekday by subscribing to the Daily Brief on iTunes and Spotify. Also, while you're at it, make sure to hit us with a 5-star rating and please leave a review.